Welcome to Curated by Culture. I'm your curator, Cassandra. Thank you as always for joining me. I have to start this episode by saying this. It is so hard for me to record video for so many reasons, but the main reason being a lot of these conversations that I curate for the podcast are personal conversations that I'm having with people in real time, right? So I could be out to dinner with somebody and be having a dope conversation and think, oh, let me write this down or whatever. And I can come home, straight home and record it or wherever I am. Like if I'm out, if I'm traveling, or I could be having at 3 o'clock, I could be having a conversation at 3 o'clock in the morning with somebody. And I used to be able to just jump on, record 30 minutes of audio and keep it pushing. But now, with this camera in my face, I have to be like, oh, let me write it down. Let me save this for later. Let me think about this later. And sometimes my feelings aren't as like my thoughts aren't as fresh. And so, I come here and I get on the topic and it's like, all right, well, it's a continuation of, and we can talk about it more, but it's so much easier just doing audio. But on the other hand, a lot of people like video and video gets more traction, I guess. I don't know. So here I am. Anyway, um I was recently having a conversation with my daughter and we talk every day, like just regular check-ins, but we were on the phone and we were just talking and she randomly said, "You know what I would love to have right now? Um one of your soups." And I was like, "Which one?" She's like, "Any of them." And if you've ever been fortunate enough to have my soup, I make an amazing chicken soup. Like when my friends who are, within driving distance or close by, anytime anybody that I love, not just my friends, but anybody, if I love you and you tell me you're sick, the first thing I do is I make you a potted chicken soup. And it is made with so much love that I believe it heals people instantly. But that's let me get back on topic. She said she wanted some of my soups. And then later on in the conversation, she had said that she wanted to be more intentional about her spending time with me. And if you know me and you know I feel my feelings in real time, I think I cried because I just felt like, wow, who is this amazing child that I've raised who wants to spend time with me? But the other part is, that was such a sweet sentiment to put out there. But then I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, we do spend time. She's like, no, like, my friends who are nearby, we can go to brunch or they can come over, we can hang out. And my friends, where there's distance, we watch like movies together on FaceTime. I don't think it's FaceTime, it's something else, but they watch a movie together and they watch it together in real time and they can pause it. And she said, but I don't do that with you. Like we talk, but I want to be intentional about my time. And I was like, again, tears, proud mother, like who is this person? But um then she recommended, she was like, you know what we can do? We can be on FaceTime and you can teach me how to make your soups. Again, tears, because that is like exactly what my sisters and I do. Like with my mom, like I'm. If you've ever tasted my parents' cooking, you understand like what I'm about to say. But my parents are my father was an excellent chef, and my mother makes everything amazing. Like there's not a single dish my mother makes that people aren't like, I want that, I love that. Like every holiday, everybody has their individual grandma requests. Like stuff that they like that she makes that they like, and as my mother gets older, we're always like, well, we need to learn these things. We need to know how to make this. We need to know how to make that. And so we're always spending time with her and wanting her to show us how to make it. So when she said that, so many thoughts came to mind for this topic, this episode here today. Like, first, I thought about the value of time and how we don't really, really comprehend it. Like when she said she wanted to be more intentional with her time, I thought about that because it's like I had an episode last season, I think, where I talked about assets and commodities or something, how we spend time and how important it is for us to think about what we do with our time. And when she said that, like so many thoughts came to mind, but um I thought about the idea in connecting with people, on the other side of healing. I talk about the connections we make. And I think the intentionality I've never really discussed, like how important it is that when we do spend time with people, we are intentional. If they need us, we're intentionally listening. If we need them, to be for them to be in an environment where they can intentionally listen to us. But also, I thought about from my daughter's mouth to say, you know, I need to be more intentional with my time. And it's so funny to think, but while we're watching our children grow, they're also watching us grow, right? Like, I don't think we think about that enough. Like, I watched my mother grow. My mother watched me grow, yes, to this 45-year-old woman, but I also watched my mother grow. She's now in her 70s and she's who she is. And I'm still watching her grow. As long as we're living, we should still be growing. And it's so in line with time and how we have to be intentional about the time we put into our relationships, into our friendships. And, as I said that as a parent, but on another episode, I talked about how important it is as community to understand that we need to be intentional with young people who are in our lives in other ways. Like, it doesn't have to be a mother daughter or father son, or it doesn't have to be a parent, but it can also be somebody that or some one of your kids' friends or something like that. Like, we have to be intentional about our time with them. We really do, because it shapes them. Like, I'm watching my daughter now grow up and who she's turned into, and I'm so like, I'm I don't even know, like, I'm the words sometimes escape me because I'm just so like overjoyed to see who she's become, and to think that my intentional time is part of that. My mom's intentional time is part of that. My daughter watched me grow. She also watched my mom grow too, in so many ways. And it's all just an intertwined circle, but it's so important to really stop and reflect on these things. And in that, I had so many other thoughts, because it's like the dynamics of people who don't have parents. Like, some of us are so fortunate to have a parent. Some of us have two parents. I only have one now. But I think about young people that I've met who I was a mom to, or I was a friend to, or, in any way. Like, some people don't have that same relationship with their parents. And when I think about time, I think about it is very easy for us to realize our traumas, and sometimes our parents are the reasons for those traumas. But once we stop, we address it, we have to heal from it, and then we have to offer grace and forgiveness to grow from it. Because, to quote Nas has a lyric where he says, "Kiss your mother because you only get one." We only get one mom, we only get one dad. And for those who are fortunate enough to have them, some don't. But just the same, when we think about time and intention, we have to think about the village that it takes to raise children, and how our time and intention shapes their lives too. But to go back to the parent thing, on the other side of healing is that grace and that forgiveness and that growth. And you get to spend the rest of your time seeing how that relationship could have played out. I've healed from it. I want you to heal from it, and I want us to grow from it. I don't know. It's just it's so important to me to have these types of conversations with my daughter, but to say it, because if you stop and you think about how we shape young people, how it helps them to become who they are, and how they, like, I know now who my daughter is, and I know that she's part of my legacy, because the young lady who I see now is whole and is walking in her purpose. She has such a personal relationship with God, and that's the most important thing to me. That is the most important thing. And my mom gets to see that with me, especially in doing this podcast, because I talk about God a lot. And when I'm talking to my mother, I'm like, I'm so hardcore in the street. I know she thinks like this one is lost. But she gets to see me talk about God and my personal relationship with God. Or she, by watching this, or even when I'm talking to her and she's still watching me grow and evolve. So I think that the idea and the thought of time and being intentional is so important, for us as part of our evolution. Like, what I'm doing with the rest of my time is so legacy focused. Like, my legacy is my purpose. What I do with the rest of my time is me walking in my purpose. And I know that the legacy I will leave behind will be so much greater than even I thought, because I know that's what God's best is for me. Like, this legacy that I will leave behind personally through my daughter, through my nieces and nephews, through the people that I love, and through the people that listen to this, and it changes. And trust me, I know it sounds weird, but a lot of people do DM me or text me. They're like, I listened to this episode and it was so great because now I'm doing this. And I don't think by any means I'm a therapist, but I think that everything that has happened for me, not to me, has led me to this point where I can share these things or the conversations that I have. That's why I wanted to call it curated by culture, because these are conversations that I'm having. And I'm like, I wonder if other people want to have these conversations. So for me, my time is going to be, my intention for the rest of my time on this planet is that it's legacy based, it's purpose filled. Like I gave up a lot to give my daughter the life she has now, and I'm watching all my sacrifice and all my hard work play out. And as a mom, like I'm about to cry now, so let me stop. But as a mom, that means like the world to me. It's so important. So kiss your mother because you only get one, and that's for your dad too, or for anybody that you love. If you didn't have parents, the person who did bring you to this point, kiss that person. Like that's important. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that. But the soup conversation led me to thinking about something else. Because she was just like, I love those soups. It feels like home, and she had a lot of different comments for it, a lot of different thoughts for it. But I thought about how important it is how we leave people, or how people leave us, how they feel when they leave us. And it's also intertwined with time and intention. But like, for instance, with me, when I need like this good boost of energy, or I need like, I need this certain something that's perfect for my heart, I go spend time with my nieces and nephews. And I have a lot of nieces and nephews, but the three that are the closest to me, within driving distance, I will go over there on a Saturday or a Sunday, or if I want to see my Ava any day of the week, because she's always home. But and I just spend hours with them, and I love on them, and I'm part of their village, so it's important that they feel my love, and they get a little dose of me. But if they act up, I'll say, well, I'm gonna leave, and they're like, no, stay. Or when it's time to leave, they'll always, like, my niece Ava will hide my shoes or hide my keys, and Olivia will just start bringing me little gifts, because like and that makes me feel good. It's like I'm giving them something that's important, but they're giving me something that's so much more important. And I think about it too in my adult relationships too. Like, get to spend time with some of my friends who don't live where I live, and anytime I do that, it's such a good feeling. Sometimes my friends will cry, sometimes they'll hold me hostage. Ashley and Aisha, sometimes they'll hold me hostage. But that means the world to me. It tells me that I am being the person that I want to be, the person that is inside of me, when people are sad when they leave me, or vice versa too. Like, sometimes when people leave me, they're crying, and it's not necessarily sad tears, or they'll leave me and they feel like I got so much from this conversation. And I don't think we spend enough time really trying to think about how everybody wants to be understood, and how important in connection it is, that when we do spend time with people, we're intentional with it, but we're also listening to understand. I'm always listening to understand. I don't spend as much time just saying whatever. Like, I don't just talk to talk. I'm always listening, and I'll ask the right questions, and in certain spaces with the right people. And I want the person to feel like, oh, she was really listening to me. Like, she cares about what I'm saying. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think sometimes we get together, it's just like, oh, let's just have a good time, let's just drink, let's just do whatever. And sure, I spent a lot of time doing that, but on this in this part of my life, on this side of peace, and like, all my time spent with people is so much more intentional. And I think as we grow, that is something we really need to think about, like being intentional with the time that we spend with people, and the impact that we have on people, especially little kids. I love when they leave me and they're so excited. I love, like, it's like, it's either with the kids, it's either like, I brought something new, or we did something. I do Snapchat. I'm like the Snapchat queen with the kids. Like, when they see me, they're like, I want to do Snapchat. And those things make me feel good. But I think we also need to think about it, um, why we choose to spend time with people. Like if I say I want to get together with somebody, it's because maybe I can pour into you or I need to be poured into. So I choose those things wisely, and I think we need to be mindful of when we, when we're going out. Like it's easy to just go out and drink and dance and but the older I get, it's like, what was the intention of that? Like, I want to be so intentional about my time on this planet. And I don't know. I think at 45, it's probably a different thought than at 22. 22 is like, I just want to get drunk. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like, I'm drinking age. I just want to hang out and I want to party or whatever. But the older I get, I wish I wouldn't have done it. Like, I wish I would have spent more time doing other things that had more intention. But it's not a regret. So don't hear that as regret, because I definitely don't regret anything that I did or the places that I went or, whatever. I just wish I was always more intentional with my time. Like to hear my daughter say that at 22, I'm just kind of like, wow, that's so awesome. Like, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the conversation with my daughter was great. And, you know, we have to remember that as we're watching them grow, they're watching us grow. So we should always be putting our best foot forward. We should always be thinking about, you know, making sure that they are seen, feel seen by us, because all of that shapes them. Anyway, those were my thoughts from that. And all of that also leads me to another conversation I was having recently. If you know me, I am so big on nostalgia. Like, this is my random thought. It's not, it's not a unpopular opinion. It's just my random thought. Um, I love the era in which I grew up. It was such a great time. We didn't have social media to tell us what other people were doing. We barely had, like, back then, if you called somebody and you tried to get through, and they were on the phone, you got a busy signal. We would sometimes do what was it, emergency breakthrough? We would call the operator and ask them to emergency breakthrough. That's so wild now that I think about it. Like, if my parents were on the phone and that happened, they'd be like, "What? Who?" Like, because they had like strong accents. They would have been like, "Who's calling? What's happening?" But I have such an attachment to when I grew up. I love it. Like, I loved being a kid when I was a kid and all that stuff. And like, I'm such a nostalgic person. Like, I love nostalgia. But I was thinking about now and how we're such in a digital era. Like, these kids wake up, they have their iPads, they have things to do on their iPads, they have everything is iPad driven. They're always on the phones or always on the iPads. We grew up with Saturday morning cartoons. I miss Saturday morning cartoons. I have such a thing about that time. And maybe it's unrelatable for the younger crowd, but for people who remember that, do you remember that time? And I'm so sad that kids don't have that. Are Saturday morning cartoons even a thing anymore? I don't know. I don't think it is. But I think it's so important um to for me to share this, because it is important to disconnect. And this is probably an unpopular opinion. Let me be honest. This is probably a very unpopular opinion. But it is important that our kids don't only have digital in front of them. Like, read a book with them or pick up a book or suggest a book. My daughter used to, like, she loves reading. She has a lot of books. She loves reading. I mean, if you look around, you'll probably get an idea as to why. But like, books are so important. But that time, the 80s, what a time to be alive. The 90s too, like the early 90s. What a time to be alive. I miss that so much. Ugh, I miss that so much. Anyway, we live in such a digital era now that I think it's harder for the younger generation to really grasp what time and intention feels like. It's like, yeah, I was on the phone with you. I sent you some videos. I sent you some memes. No, we need to be more mindful. Again, all of these are like, they all intertwine. But I was having that conversation with my friend Joe Genovese, who's been a longtime friend of mine. He's just like, everything is crap now. These kids don't know what family is like. These kids don't know what, like, kids, they don't, there's no family, there's no structure. And I'm not going to disagree. I think as a lot of parents, and listen, I'm not here to judge you. I totally get it. Like, I think sometimes after like 4 hours with my nieces and nephews, I'm like, here's your iPad. Like, play on that for a minute. I totally get it. Um, like, but what has changed, right? I don't see kids with less toys. Like, we didn't even have that many toys, my sisters and I. And one of my aunts at some point, I remember her coming over and throwing our toys out. I don't know why. I still don't to this day know why. But I think about that and it's like, what has changed? Like, why can't we still have that? Why isn't there, like, I don't know. We went outside and we skated. We went outside and played with random people that lived on our block. What has changed so much now that Saturday morning cartoons are gone? It's so weird to me, and the intentionality behind some of the things that we had when we were kids. Like, our parents found time to do the silliest of things with us that now I'm like, parents don't have time for that. They're just going to turn on their iPads and keep it pushing. Again, I'm not here to judge. It's more of an observation. Random thought, unpopular opinion, observation. What happened to Saturday morning cartoons? Where did they go? I'm a nostalgia person. I love anything 80s, 90s. Oh, anyway. Um, I think that's it for me. I could probably talk more, but then I'll just be like this slippery slope and long path, and I really is hard because people are like, "Oh, you're all over the place," but it all intertwines, right? It all makes sense. It's all connected. So my points are this, be intentional about your time. Remember that the kids are watching us grow too. So it's important how we navigate relationships. Like, for parents who can't be in the same house for their own peace and their own happiness and different reasons, it's important how they see us interact with each other because that shapes their relationships when they get older. It's really important. Like, I've talked about it a lot last season, how everybody's like, oh, you have to have a father. No, you can have a father figure, because some dads aren't great, some moms aren't great, some people need other people, but we all play a role in someone's lives, and when we do that, we should take it very seriously. But it is important that we help young people navigate life so that they can be these people. But with our kids, it's the most important that we remember they're watching us and these things shape them. So be intentional. I'm going to say be better people, because we're all doing the best we can. But when we take these things and we apply them to our everyday thoughts and our everyday lives, it becomes more intentional. I don't know. I want to use the same word again. Like, having these thoughts, we can move with more intention. Is that a fair thought process? Time, intention, our parents, nostalgia. That's today's episode. It's all over the place, but it all makes sense for me, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you're following this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever, I'm on YouTube now. I have a YouTube channel. And if you're on YouTube and you're new to this, I have 20 seasons from 20 episodes from last season that you can listen to, curated by culture. On Instagram, if you aren't following me, I am CXC underscore the podcast. I think CXC underscore the podcast. I'm also on there for my business. So if you want to follow me there and you don't, curated X Cassandra with an E at the end. And that's it. Thank you for joining me as always.